What is going on, guys and girls on YouTube? So today we're actually going to be doing my Resident Evil review. Stuff I like, stuff I did not like about the game. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to start off at this part right here, the doll. And I'm just going to let this play out. And I'm going to go ahead and pause it right there. Now, the biggest problem I had with this was I felt that it was kind of childish. And there's a reason why. Right there. Try and find me. Like, I felt like it was like a game of hide and seek. But that's why I felt like it was childish. I thought what was going to happen is I thought she was like a puppet herself. Like, for an example, when I saw that one, what looked like his wife in that one room, and we had to find all this stuff on her, like the keys and stuff, I thought that fed my theory more, and I thought I was right about it. I thought the person that was controlling the puppets was also like a puppet. For an example, she could take off one of her arms and it could be a chainsaw. And she could like stick one arm, it has like a chainsaw on it. Stuff like that. Like, or she could take off her right arm and it could become and she could put an arm on there. It has a sword. But instead, you're playing hide and go seek with the puppet. When you find the puppet, you take scissors and you stab it. I'm sorry, that let me down really a lot. And now, let's go ahead and move on to the next thing that kind of let me down. And here we go. Let's go ahead and play. Yes, this one right here, he let me down as well. The one that has to do with the water. Hold on, let me go and unpause that. That was kind of bright. Okay, now, the reason he let me down is how you did this. You drained his water. That was his element. That was his power, basically. Once you drained out all that water and he was like this, he was too weak and he wasn't too much of a challenge, really, I felt. Even if it was to go to the hardest difficulty, I felt like he wouldn't be that hard of a challenge. Now, here's the big problem I got with him. What they should have done is, you found a boat, you got in said boat, and that's how you fought him in that water. You fought him in the water with you on this boat, and you basically taking spears and all these other types of weaponry and shooting at him and stuff like that. But he could knock you out of the boat, and you would have to hit a button, or like, for an example, you had to hit W real quick for him to swim real fast. Now, I just felt once he got out of that water, it was gone. And honestly, that landed right on its face as well. Because once he didn't have his water, he didn't have none of his speed. He didn't have really anything. And it was really slow once he got out of the water. Now, let's go ahead and talk about this game a little bit more. Since I point out those two things I did not like about it. Now, it does end up kind of balancing itself out. And that is with the last guy. The guy with the hat. And it's kind of funny is because the vampire and him, they're like brother and sister. And those are the two big bad guys. And they're the two strongest. And they're the best ones out of the whole game. You're sitting there going, and it felt like those other two were just thrown in at the game to make it longer. And I didn't like it. Honestly. I did not like the doll boss or the what's this call him? The killer whale boss, because I mean, and here's the thing, I just didn't like that. Now, let's go ahead and move on to Rose and Ethan. Ethan, one, he could still be alive. Remember, he's made out of mold. Mold can be anywhere. It can feed on your house. It can feed on groceries, everything. And who is to say there is not a piece of Ethan left in that jacket? And was to say Chris found that piece, and Ethan, they got him eventually strong enough to where he could talk to them, and he told them that he wanted them to tell Rose and his wife that he was dead because he didn't want them to see him in that weakened state. And was to say that when Chris is lost, he goes to Ethan because Rose and him are kind of connected and he can kind of feel what she feels and he helps her. Now, let's go ahead and move on from this and talk about another game. Now, let's talk about Resident Evil 7. Now, I gave Resident Evil 7 a 7.7. That is what I gave it because it was a really good game. Even though the bosses were, repeatable and stuff like that, the boss fights were really good. They were incredibly good for what the family was and everything. Now, it ain't too hard for Resident Evil 7 to beat Resident Evil 6. Honestly, I wouldn't just do a remake on Resident Evil 6. I would throw that into the trash and I would start it from scratch. And this is what I do. I would make it this is what I do. I would first make it about Wesker's son and have I keep forgetting her name. What her come back as well. Who his partner was, and 2, make it about Wesker. His son goes up against him. Now, let's change it up a tiny bit. A couple of things. 1, it happens in a city, not outside of the city. Another thing, the son is not a hired gun or a terrorist or whatever you can call it. Now, I cannot remember his name or whatever and stuff like that, but Wesker's son, basically, I'd make it to where he could be 17, 16, 18, somewhere around in there, or even 15, and make it to where does not know how to shoot a gun, does not know how to wrap a wound or any of this, and basically you're in one of the biggest cities in the world, and what happens is this. He goes to school, he comes home, he sees his mom on the ground, basically with blood by her, she's dead, and he stands up and starts walking away, and then somebody comes up behind him and sticks a needle right into his neck, and it's Wesker. Now, what would I do next is this. I would make it to where he all of a sudden falls down on the ground, he's rolling, he's foaming at the mouth, and then all of a sudden, boom, he goes basically limp. He don't move, he ain't nothing, and then Wesker checks his pulse, he is dead. Now, what happens is he has these people get a sample of his blood and let's get out of here. And he goes, boss, what are we going to do now? He goes, it is still a great test for their virus. So, and I'm sorry about that. But, anyways, what happens after they leave? Well, he wakes up about an hour later. Now you're going, how could he be alive and stuff like that? Is he basically dead theoretically? No. Make it to where his pulse was so low he couldn't feel it. And now this is what happens. His son, he's different. He's faster, stronger. He don't know what is going on with his body. He's scared, everything, right? And he keeps fumbling around, and these people, like one of these zombies, attack him, knock him to the ground, and he pushes him off like that. And what else happens is after he pushes him, he lands against the wall, and you hear his neck snap, right? Well, all of a sudden he sees this other zombie run right after him, and all of a sudden he catches his arm, and he does that, and then he pushes him like this against the other zombies coming his way because he's in an alley, and he keeps looking at his hands like, what is going on with me? What is happening to me? And he runs. Where does somebody run when they're in trouble? To their friend's house. Gets to his friend's house, and who is it? It's that one girl was with him in the very first time, the blonde-headed one. Now, what happens is she knew of, well, who does she know? She knows she knows not Chris, but Claire Redfield, and she knows of Neon. What happens? She's been through this all before because of Raccoon City. Well, he gets there and she goes, get in. She says she has a friend coming to get her, and get her out of the town. She keeps asking him, "Are you bit? Are you okay?" And he goes, "I don't know what is wrong with me." Stuff keeps happening to him, and all of a sudden, his head starts really badly hurting, right? And then all of a sudden, his head's hurting so bad he passes out, and he wakes up, and it's been about I'd say, let's make it 5 hours. And what happens then is he wakes up, and Neon is already there, and his eyes are oval, well, like Wesker's, but they're his color still. They're not cat eyes, they're blue still. And when Neon sees this, he's scared, and he tells her, "Get behind me right now." And he pulls a gun, and he goes, "Please don't hurt me." And she goes, "Neon, what are you doing? He needs your help." And so basically what happens from here is Neon has to get these two out of the city. Now, this is where it gets a little bit different. Make it to where along the way you're not playing as Neon. Neon is actually teaching I keep forgetting his name, Wesker's son, how to defend himself by how to use a gun, stuff like that. She already knows how to use a weapon and stuff like that. So at the first of the game, you go through this one little thing of how to shoot your gun, everything, how to aim, all of it. So that way, and that's just why I wanted to do that, because in every situation, you already know how to use a gun and you already know how to fight in Resident Evil. I wish they would make a game to where you didn't know any of that and you had to learn it as you go through the game. That is why they need to make the next one an open world. Now, you're going, why haven't they destroyed the world yet? Well, Neon uses a few connections and basically makes it to where they hold off on it. And you're going, why is she there? Why is the person, the little girl was in Resident Evil 2. Well, she was in Resident Evil 6 as well. Why is she there? Well, make it to where she was actually going to a school there, and who she was staying with is actually Claire's parents. They were raising her, taking care of her, stuff like that. But they passed away. They are no longer with them. And now, what happens is that at first Neon is with them, right? But then all of a sudden something happens to where a bioweapon splits Neon and them up apart, and basically you play as him and her having to escape and stuff like that, and you meet up in certain points of the game and you start helping out, and he helps you out with other things. But as he plays along, he learns how to control more of his powers, and he learns how to fight more. Now you're going, how can he fight without learning how to fight? Well, here's the thing. He's following his instincts, and that's what he says. It's it's like these instincts I got now, and it's basically that's what he follows. And now what happens is Wesker finds out he's still alive, and he decides to send two people after him. And now one of those persons is, you guessed it, oh man, I keep forgetting her name as well. Trying to think of her name. Give me a minute. You see, and no, nothing's on my phone. I'm not seeing nothing on my phone. I'm not trying to cheat or anything to read the name off. It ain't. I keep thinking Claire, but it ain't Claire. It's I have to think. Ada. That's it. Ada. There you go. Ada. Anyways, Ada is one of those people, but she's different now. One of her eyes look like Wesker's eye, and she got the newer part of his virus, but it's the newer version of it, but she is not as fast or as strong as him, and there's another person with him. And this person we have not seen before, and we don't know who they are. They have a hood on and everything. Now, these people go after his son, and he orders them to bring him back alive, and if he is with anybody, to kill them and then bring him back. Well, what ends up happening is you have to fight these two, not together, but apart, and they are not easy to defeat. Now, tell me what y'all think about this and stuff like that. I'm sorry I've talked your heads off for a little bit, But this is how I feel that they should redo Resident Evil 6. And tell me in the comments what you think of this idea for a Resident Evil 6 remake. So, guys and girls, I hope you have a nice day. And now, here's the score of Resident Evil 8. An 8.2 is what I'm going to give them. So, tell me what you think about the score I gave Resident Evil 8 and stuff like that. And the only reason I gave it that is they were making it like to be this huge game right up here, and it kind of fell down to here. And that's why I'm giving it that score. So, guys and girls, I hope y'all have a nice day, and I will see you on the next one. Like I said, tell me what you think about what I said about how they should redo Resident Evil 6, if you like it or not. I will see you on the next one. Bye.